The Hollywood Squares is an American panel game show, in which two contestants play tic-tac-toe to win cash and prizes. The board for the game is a 3x3 vertical stack of open-faced cubes, each occupied by a celebrity seated at a desk and facing the contestants. Although the Hollywood Squares was a legitimate game show, the game largely acted as the background for the show's comedy in the form of joke answers, often given by the stars prior to their real answer. The show's writers usually supplied the jokes. In addition, the stars were given the question's subjects and bluff answers prior to the show. The show was scripted in this sense, but the gameplay was not. In any case, as original host Peter Marshall would explain at the beginning of the Secret Square game, the celebrities were briefed prior to the show to help them with bluff answers, but they otherwise heard the actual questions for the first time as they were asked on air. In 2013, TV Guide ranked it at No. 7 in its list of the 60 greatest game shows ever. Internationally, there are multiple versions under a variety of names. Basic rules. Although there have been variations over the years in the rules of and the prizes in the game, certain aspects of the game have remained fairly consistent. Two contestants competed in every match, one playing X and the other O. With very rare exceptions, the matches were male versus female, with the man playing the X position and referred to informally as Mr. X, with the female playing the O position and referred to informally as Ms. Circle. One of the contestants was usually a returning champion. Taking turns, each contestant selected a square. The star was asked a question and gave an answer. The contestants had the choice of agreeing with the star's answer or disagreeing if they thought the star was bluffing. On rare occasions, a star would not know the correct answer to a question, but would be unable to come up with a plausible bluff. In such instances, the contestant would be offered the chance to answer the question. Usually the contestants declined, in which case they incurred no penalty and the same star was asked another question. The object was to complete a line across vertically or diagonally or to score as many squares as possible, as contestants could also win by capturing 5 squares. Correctly agreeing or disagreeing with a star's answer captured the square. If the contestant did not, the square went to his/her opponent. An exception was made if the square would result in the opponent winning by default, which was not allowed. In that case, the square remained unclaimed and the opponent got a chance to earn it him/herself. 1966–81. Burt Parks hosted the 1965 pilot of Hollywood Squares. NBC acquired the rights to the show, which debuted on October 17, 1966, with Peter Marshall as host, a job he held for 15 years. Hollywood Squares was the final touch to a short-lived game show powerhouse on NBC, which also included Concentration, Jeopardy, You Don't Say, Let's Make a Deal, The Match Game and others. During most of its daytime runs, NBC broadcast the Hollywood Squares at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Central Time. It dominated the ratings until 1976, when it made the first of several time-slot moves. The daytime show aired its 3,536th and last episode on June 20, 1980. The show also ran at night, first on NBC from January 12 to September 13, 1968 as a mid-season replacement for the short-lived sitcom Accidental Family. A nighttime syndicated program ran from November 1, 1971 until May 22, 1981. For the final season, the syndicated series left NBC's Burbank studio and moved to the Riviera Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. The daytime series was played as a best 2 out of 3 match between a returning champion and an opponent, with each individual game worth $200 per $400 per match. A 5-match champion retired with $2,500 in 1966–67, the Secret Square prize package and a new car. Beginning in 1976 on this version, this was increased to include additional cash, 2 new cars and a luxury vacation. Early in September 1976, an end game was added after each match with the champion simply selecting a star, each of whom held an envelope with a prize. The top prize was $5,000. The nighttime versions featured the same 2 contestants playing for the entire half hour, with each completed game worth $300 or $250. On the syndicated version, if time ran out with a game still in progress, each X or O on the board at that point was worth an additional $50 to the contestants, with each contestant guaranteed at least $100 in total winnings. The contestant with the most money at the end of the show won a bonus prize, which for the first 7 years of the syndicated series was a car. From 1978 to 80, the endgame described above was utilized, with each prize worth at least $5,000 including a new car. If the match ended in a tie, one final question was played with the star of one contestant's choosing. If the contestant agreed or disagreed correctly, she won the match. Otherwise, the match went to the opponent. For the show's final season, games were no longer scored. Instead, the winner of each game won a prize, and if a game was called before it could be completed, the prize went to the player with more squares on the board. The highest winning contestant also advanced to play in a tournament at the end of the season for $100,000 in cash and prizes. Celebrity casts and regulars were frequently asked questions pertaining to a certain topic or category. For instance, Cliff Arquette, a history buff, excelled at American history questions. Rich Little almost always received questions about other celebrities, which gave him an opportunity to do an impression of that individual. Roddy McDowall usually gave correct answers about the plays of Shakespeare. Rosemary often received questions on dating and relationships, playing off her lovelorn comic persona. Demond Wilson often responded with mock anger to questions that were carefully worded to play upon African American stereotypes. Other regulars and semi-regulars over the years included Nanette Fabre, Kay Ballard, Wally Cox, Maury Amsterdam, Florence Henderson, Buddy Hackett, Marty Allen, Wayland Flowers and Madame Barbara Eden, George Gobel, Vincent Price, Chara, Sandy Duncan, Carol Wayne, Jonathan Winters, Karen Valentine and Joan Rivers. Paul Lynde was featured in the tactically important center square throughout most of the original show's run. On October 14, 1968, after 2 years on the show, he became the regular center square. Lynde's outrageous jokes helped him win 2 Daytime Emmy Awards, in 1974 and 1978. He left the series after taping the August 20–24, 1979, week of shows, but returned when the series relocated to Las Vegas in the 1980–81 season. Secret Square. The Secret Square round was played as the first game on a given broadcast during the daytime series. In this game, a randomly selected Secret Square panelist was revealed only to the home audience. A contestant who picked that panelist during the game won a bonus prize package if they correctly agreed or disagreed with the star. Secret Square prize packages and early on added cash on the daytime edition started at around and otherwise exactly worth $1,000 and grew daily until 1. The question for the star was sealed in a special envelope and was almost always multiple choice. For the 1968 NBC primetime series, the first 2 games were Secret Square rounds. One Secret Square offered a trip and the other Secret Square offered a Pontiac Firebird. If not won, the prize offered in the first round carried over to the second round, with a second prize added. If not won in the second round, the Secret Square prize package went unclaimed. During the first 2 seasons of the syndicated series, the first 2 games were Secret Square games, with the prize packages generally worth about $2,500. If no one claimed the prizes offered in the first round, they would be carried over to the second round, and if still not one went unclaimed, Beginning in 1973 and ending in 1978, the first 3 games had a secret square, with each game offering different prize packages, usually worth between $2,000 and $7,000. From 1978 to 1980, the second and third games each featured a secret square with the addition of the endgame. The secret square was done away with for the 1980-81 season. Storybook Squares. Storybook Squares, a children's version of Hollywood Squares, aired briefly on Saturday mornings on NBC from January 4 to August 30. 1969 and featured stars dressed as various fictional characters from television and fairy tales as well as historical figures from the past. NBC would later bring the concept back to the daytime series in the 1976-77 season with a slight retooling, where instead of children playing, entire families played. In an interview with E!'s True Hollywood Story on March 30, 2003, Marshall lauded the concept, but lamented that by the time each of the characters was introduced, very little of the show's half-hour format was left for actual gameplay. The match game Hollywood Squares Hour. In 1983, several years after Orion Pictures acquired Hollywood Squares rights owner Filmways, NBC decided to attempt a revival of the series. What resulted was a joint-produced effort with Orion's television unit and Mark Goodson Productions that combined the Hollywood Squares program with a revival of the Goodson-produced match game. The 60-minute program was dubbed the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour and debuted on October 31, 1983 at 3 p.m. Eastern, coincidentally replacing the Peter Marshall-hosted series Fantasy. Longtime match game host Gene Rayburn hosted the MG segment and the show-ending Super Match bonus game, with John Bauman hosting the Squares segment. Each host served as a panelist on the other host's segment. Hollywood Squares was always played as the second segment of the show, and featured the winner of the match game match played in the first half of the program facing off with the show's returning champion. This version of Hollywood Squares saw several different variations on the gameplay. First, the panelists were not given bluff answers or briefed. Second, the questions followed either a multiple-choice or true-false format. Third, for each square a contestant claimed $25 was added to his/her score, with each game win starting at $100 for the first and increasing by that amount for subsequent games until time ran out and a winner was declared. The bonus round for this version was the Match Games bonus round, the Super Match. The series had no regular panelists save for the hosts, and players could win games by default if the opposing player incorrectly disagreed with the celebrity whose square would give the other player a completed row. The match game segment featured 6 panelists, as it had from 1973 to 82, for the Hollywood Squares portion. A third tier was added to the panel seating area, with 3 more celebrities being introduced to the proceedings at the show's midpoint. The match game Hollywood Squares Hour was not a success and NBC cancelled it on July 27, 1984. It was replaced the following Monday with the soap opera Santa Barbara, which would run for 9 years, 1986 to 89. 2 years after the cancellation of the match game Hollywood Squares Hour, a new Hollywood Squares series was put into production. Referred to throughout its run as the New Hollywood Squares, the program debuted on September 15, 1986 and was produced by Century Towers Productions, with Rick Rossner serving as executive producer and Orion Television as distributor. John Davidson, who was a semi-regular panelist on the original Hollywood Squares, was chosen to host the new series. Shadoe Stevens was the announcer for the series beginning late in the first season. He also became a regular panelist, occupying the bottom center square. After a season of rotating center squares, former Hollywood Squares panelist Joan Rivers joined the series as the permanent center square. Jim J. Bullock was the series' third regular panelist, usually in the upper left square. The three regulars also served as guest hosts for when Davidson was unavailable, in one of those instances. For 1 week at the beginning of the show's final season, Stevens hosted while Bullock was the center square and Howard Stern announced. On most other occasions that Stevens was not available to announce, his brother Richard would take his place. That happened beginning on the show's 100th episode until the Friday before the final 2 weeks of the first season, when Shadow returned and became a regular. The game used the original version's rule that games could not be won due to an opponent's error. For the first season, each game was worth $500, with a bonus of $100 per square if time ran out in the middle of a game. Beginning in Season 2, the third and subsequent games were worth $1,000 with $200 given for each square claimed when time ran out. If time had run out with the contestants tied, one more question was asked to one celebrity. If the contestant agreed or disagreed correctly, they won the money for one square in the match. If not, their opponent automatically won. This was also done on occasions where there was no tie, but there was only enough time for one question in a game. The contestant who finished with the most money won the match and went on to the bonus round. Secret Square. The second game of each show was a Secret Square game. As with the original version, the Secret Square was revealed to the home audience at the start of this game. If a contestant chose this square and successfully claimed it, she won a prize. The prize did not increase in value from one show to the next if it was not collected. Bonus round. The first 2 seasons of this version of the series employed a bonus round that was similar to the one used on the 1970s game show Split. Second, 5 cars, each of the same brand, make, were displayed on the stage for the entire week. The champion chose one of 5 keys and then chose the car they thought the key would start. The contestant also chose at least one celebrity to stand beside the car or sit in it with them for good luck. At times the entire panel would congregate near the car, especially on Friday shows or when a champion reached a 5th win and automatically retire with the car. If the chosen key started the car, the contestant won it and retired. Otherwise, the contestant returned the next day with that car eliminated should he or she return to the bonus game. The contestant automatically won whatever car was left on the 5th day should they have gone that far without starting the car. Since the cars were replaced every week, if a champion's reign managed to straddle weeks without having won a car, the lowest valued cars for the new week were eliminated from consideration for the champion depending on how many prior attempts were made, and they were then given the choice of keys from the remaining cars. For the final season, the car round was changed. The champion first chose a car, then one of the 9 celebrities. Each held a key, with 5 of the celebrities holding keys that would start any one of the 5 available cars and 4 holding dud keys that did not start anything. If the champion failed to start the car, it was not eliminated from the round, but was available again if the champion returned the next day. However, the 5-day limit was removed and a champion was able to stay until either winning a car or being defeated.